Inhale, and then do it again. Don Felder may not be the first person that comes to mind when people think of the Eagles, but the band might not have become like they are today without him. The first guitar chords of Hotel California sound like a beautiful request. But how many people know that Felder, the guitar genius, artist with a burning fire, and man who was eventually kicked out of his own band, wrote this melody? Felder was quiet and didn't like to brag. He never did anything to get attention or power. His guitar did all the talking for him as an artist. But no matter how talented someone is, those who don't bow down will be thrown out when the game turns into a power struggle. That's exactly what happened to Don Felder, a man of fire and virtuosity on the guitar who was let down by people who used to call him a brother. What really took place? Why did Don Felder get kicked out when he was an important part of the Eagles' best moments? It's not just a story about a great artist. It's also about greed, power, betrayal, and regrets that can't be erased. Discover Don Felder's story with us. He was a genius who lived in the shadows and helped make one of the best songs of all time. But he was never given the credit he deserves. Beginnings. There was a boy named Don Felder born on September 21st, 1947. Born into a working-class family in Gainesville, Florida. His parents weren't rich, but they made sure their kids had a safe place to live. Everyone in Gainesville knew each other because it was a small town. Children there were taught the traditional ideals of the American South, like family, church, and hard work. Felder was raised in a Baptist home and went to church every Sunday with his family. But even when he was young, he didn't feel fully a part of that way of life. He showed a strong interest in singing from a very young age. No one in Felder's family worked in the arts, but he was very interested in the music on the family radio. He loved Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, and Chuck Berry's rock and roll music the most, but he didn't know how to play an instrument. From the time Felder turned 13, his life changed. He became very sick after seeing Elvis Presley perform on The Ed Sullivan Show. There was more to it than just music. For Felder and many other young Americans, it was a culture event that changed their lives. He was captivated by the strong guitar sound, the captivating stage personality, and the huge crowd's excitement. Felder knew then and there that he wanted to try to make music. Felder wanted to play music, but didn't have the money to buy a guitar. He wasn't going to let that stop him, though. He was able to trade a box of cherry bomb fireworks for an old, dirty guitar while talking to a friend in the neighborhood. Many people thought it was useless, but Felder saw it as the key to a whole new world. He learned on his own by listening and copying others. He didn't have a teacher, any books, or any other formal training. He would practice until his fingers hurt by playing back songs on the radio over and over again to learn each note. He never gave up. When Felder went to Gainesville High School, he met people who loved music as much as he did. Stephen Stills was one of them. He would go on to join Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They became friends right away and started practicing together, sharing guitar tricks they had each learned on their own. Felder got a job at a nearby music shop, where he could play better instruments and learn from musicians with more experience. Meeting Duane Allman, a talented musician who would later form the Allman Brothers Band, was one of the most important events in Felder's childhood. At that time, Allman went into Felder's music shop and started playing slide guitar. The Felder had never seen this method before. Because Allman was so impressed by Felder's interest, he took the time to show him how to put the slide on his finger and make the unique sound that made this method so special. Felder would use this skill in many of his famous songs later on. It was a valuable lesson. Early years, when Don Felder left Gainesville, he started a trip that was anything but simple. He wasn't famous or rich, but he was very good at playing the guitar and was sure he could make it in the music business. He had a hard time in the beginning of his career. He moved from city to city and played with different bands, barely making enough money to keep doing what he loved. Felder started his journey in New York, where he joined a jazz rock band called Flow. Then, rock music was changing very quickly, with a lot of young artists trying out new styles. Put out an album in 1970 on the jazz fusion label CTI Records. Even though the band was good, their style didn't get much attention, and Flow broke up soon after. Still, Felder didn't give up. He went to Boston and got a job at a recording studio. He could keep improving his music skills while learning how to record at the same time. He worked with a lot of different acts, made new friends, and learned more about the music business during this time. He learned how to be a better guitarist and a more creative singer, especially when it came to arranging and harmonizing. Moving to Los Angeles in 1973, on the other hand, gave him his big chance. The heart of the music business, where all hopeful artists looked for their big break. He started working with David Blue, a folk rock singer-songwriter, and started playing shows and recording for different acts. He got in touch with Bernie Ledon, an old friend from Gainesville who was now a member of the Eagles, through this work. The Eagles were still young at the time, and Ledon saw that Felder could bring something special to the group. Felder was asked to record with the Eagles in early 1974, and he played guitar on the song Good Day in Hell. The other members were quickly impressed by how powerful his guitar playing was. After just one day, the Eagles made it official that Felder could join the band. After this, a new part of Don Felder's journey began. Now he is a member of one of the best rock bands of all time and no longer an unknown artist. But along with the fame came problems that would eventually cause fights and breaks in the band, setting the stage for the future scandals. Good luck with your job. The most important event in Don Felder's career was when he joined the Eagles in 1974. The Eagles were known for their soft country rock sound before he joined the group. Felder did, however, help them broaden their musical direction by adding more rock elements. With a style of guitar that mixed rock and blues and a grasp of the slide guitar, he quickly became a key part of creating the band's signature sound during its golden age. Felder's first record as a full-fledged member was 1975's One of These Nights. This was the Eagles' record that really made them famous. It went to number 1. Number 1 on the Billboard 200 and a producer of many hit songs, such as Lion Eyes, Take It to the Limit, and, most famously, One of These Nights. Felder wasn't very good at writing songs at the time, but the guitar work on the record made it sound better and sharper. He made a big difference by harmonizing and playing powerful guitar solos, which the Eagles had not done on previous records. Visions was one of the best songs on this record. Felder co-wrote it and sang lead on it, making it the only Eagles song that wasn't by Don Henley or Glenn Frey. Creating the instrumental foundation for Hotel California, one of the greatest rock songs ever, would have to be the most important time in Don Felder's career. Felder sat down with his 12-string guitar one afternoon in 1976 at his home in Malibu and found a unique chord progression by chance. He saw that the melody had promise, so he recorded a demo and sent it to Glenn Frey and Don Henley. From the start, they knew it had the potential to be something special. Felder and Joe Walsh worked on the dual guitar solo even more, making it one of the most famous guitar solos in rock history. It wasn't just a hit song that Hotel California was. It became the song that defined a time. The Eagles are now known as one of the best rock bands of all time thanks to their record of the same name, which won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year in 1977 and sold over 32 million copies around the world. A lot of well-known music magazines later ranked Felder and Walsh's dual guitar solo as one of the best guitar solos ever. After Hotel California, there was a lot of pressure to make another hit like it. The Eagles' next record, The Long Run, 1979, took an unusually long 18 months to finish. Felder continued to be very important in harmonizing and creating unique guitar melodies, which made sure that the record met the band's high standards. Even though The Long Run wasn't as popular as Hotel California, it was still a huge hit. There were several hits from the album, including Heartache Tonight, I Can't Tell You Why, and The Long Run, which was the title track. The album went to number 1 on the Billboard 200 and sold over 8 million copies in the US. Felder made an important addition to those shoes. He used the talkbox guitar effect to make a new sound that was very different from other Eagles records. His creativity was shown on this song, which helped the Eagles stay at the top of the rock music scene. During the band's best years, Don Felder not only helped write famous songs, but also played a key role on stage. Together with Joe Walsh, he made one of the most powerful guitar duos in rock history. They turned Eagles concerts into explosive shows that mixed precise music with electrifying solos. Every Eagles tour, especially the Hotel California tour in 1977, which was one of the biggest hits of the decade, drew hundreds of thousands of fans. This is when Felder really showed off his amazing guitar skills and charming stage personality. In addition to his commercial success, Don Felder received a number of important awards for his work with the Eagles. Hotel California won Album of the Year at the 1977 Grammys. Their greatest hits album from 1971 to 1975 sold more than 38 million copies and is now the best-selling record of all time in the U.S. When Don Felder and the other Eagles members were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998, it was the high point of his career. He was now an important part of one of the most famous rock bands ever. But when I got to the top, I saw that cracks were already here. Although the Eagles continued to have a lot of success, the band's unity was no longer there. Conflict and failure. Even though the Eagles were at the top of their game, emotions kept rising. Don Felder was a big part of shaping the band's sound, but he started to feel left out of important choices. Don Henley and Frey tightened their control over the Eagles' power and finances. Felder thought that the band was supposed to be a group where everyone should be recognized for their efforts and be paid fairly. In the early days of the band, everyone got an equal share of the money they made. However, after Hotel California became a huge hit, Henley and Frey slowly took over more duties. They wanted the biggest share of the money made from albums, tours, and songwriting rights. This made the other members, especially Felder, feel left out and angry. Felder felt like Henley and Frey were taking over the band's musical direction while they were recording The Long Run in 1979. It took 18 long, tiring months to record, which made things worse and put more stress on the members' relationships. Everything came to a head on July 31st, 1980, when the Eagles played a show in Long Beach, California, to raise money for Senator Alan Cranston. Felder was rude to Cranston when they met before the show, which made Frey very angry. During the show, Frey kept threatening Felder on stage, to the cheers of the crowd. "My plan is to kick you in the behind after the show." Because Felder wasn't going to give up, he responded to the stare with stubborn silence. When the show was over, there were problems backstage, which led to a heated argument between the two. For the Eagles, this was the last thing that made them snap. Not long after what happened, the Eagles officially broke up. In a striking way, Frey said something. The Eagles will not get back together until the end of time. Each person left the group on their own, and Felder started working on his own. But the problems within the group were far from over. After more than a decade, when the Eagles got back together in 1994, things were not as smooth as they seemed. The final treachery and the reunion. The Eagles suddenly got back together in 1994 for the Hell Freezes Over tour, even though Frey had said before the tour that the band would never get back together until Hell Freezes Over. Fans saw this as a huge deal because it meant they could see the famous band play together again. But even though this gathering was fun, the Eagles were not at all a united group. Soon, Don Felder saw that things had changed in ways he never thought possible. Felder could tell right away when he got back that the Eagles were not working together like they used to. Instead, Frey and Don Henley were in charge of everything, from the band's funds to its creative choices, and they made themselves the most important people in the group. Major choices, like how to split the money and the band's musical direction, were made by Frey and Henley alone, without any input from the other members. Felder had been very important in shaping the Eagles' sound, but now he was just a hired gun, a performer who had no say, no control, and no real say in the band's future. It was painfully clear of this when Henley and Frey made huge deals that made them tens of millions of dollars from re-releasing albums and performing live, while Felder got a very small share of the money made. Felder started to feel more alone and angry with how Henley and Frey were running the band over time. In 2001, he finally lost it when he got a sudden phone call telling him he was fired. There was no talk or explanation. He was just told briefly that he was no longer with the Eagles. Felder was fired without a second thought after being in the band for almost 30 years, while Henley and Frey kept their power and made hundreds of millions of dollars without having to share with him. Felder did not want to accept this betrayal, so he chose to sue the Eagles. He sued Henley and Frey for financial manipulation, abuse of power, and breach of contract in his unfair firing. The case went on for 6 years, becoming one of the band's most famous court cases ever. During this time, Felder also wrote his autobiography, Heaven and Hell: My Life in the Eagles, 1974 to 2001. In it, he talked about the bad sides of the band and how he was wrongfully fired. The book about the Eagles quickly became one of the most controversial ones because it showed what was really going on behind the band's polished image. Finally, in 2007, the case was settled without going to court. Felder got a large settlement, but he was told he could never join the band again. He kept going with his solo business, but he would never be able to join the Eagles again. Many people were curious about whether Felder would go to Glenn Frey's funeral in 2016, but the answer was no. Their friendship was broken beyond repair. Felder never got the chance to make peace with Frey before he died. Many Eagles fans thought Felder's departure was a big loss, but his reputation will live on no matter what happens. The impact of his work on classic songs like Hotel California lasts forever, ensuring his place in rock history. Personal life. Besides the stage and the tough fights with the Eagles, Don Felder's personal life has had its ups and downs. Even though he is famous for being a great musician, he has also had big problems in his family, marriage, and personal life that have changed him forever. They got married in 1971, before Felder's career really took off. They were married for almost 30 years and had 4 kids: Jesse, Rebecca, Cody, and Leah. Susan was Felder's rock in the beginning, helping him through the hard times of following his dream. When the Eagles became one of the most famous bands in the world, things started to change. Success for the band meant fame and money, but it also meant giving in to desires. Felder and his family became less close over time because he was always traveling and spending long nights in the studio. While he wasn't known for partying too much or living a reckless life like some rock stars, it was getting harder and harder for him to balance his work with his duties at home. Even though Susan tried to keep the family together, their marriage could no longer be saved as the mental and physical distance grew. Felder and Susan got divorced in 2000, ending their almost 30-year marriage. He took a huge hit from the breakup, especially since it happened just 1 year before he was fired from the Eagles. Felder lost both his family and the business he had worked so hard to build for almost 30 years in just 2 years. He went through a depressive time after the divorce and worked hard to start over with his life. Things got better for Felder over time, though. He spent time with his kids and worked on his solo business. After meeting for years, he fell in love with Catherine Ronick again in 2007. They got engaged that same year. Even though Felder has been in the public eye in the past, he has kept his personal life quiet to escape the drama of the entertainment business. Besides music, Felder's other great love is golf, which he started playing when he was younger. He plays in a lot of charity golf events and meets other musicians who love the game as much as he does. After the bad times in his past, golf has become a way for him to calm down and rest. In his 70s, Don Felder is no longer looking for fame, but he still writes music, performs it, and stays true to his love of it. After all the trouble he's been through, he's decided to live a calmer life, having fun with family and friends, and keeping making beautiful music for everyone. Right now, life and memory. While he is no longer on stage with the Eagles, Don Felder still follows his dream of making music, even though he is in his 70s. He left the band in 2001, but has since had a successful solo career and become known as one of the best guitarists of his time. Felder decided to move on with his life instead of letting past problems define his legacy. He continued to make music and inspire people. After Felder sued the Eagles, he worked hard to rebuild his career. His solo record Road to Forever, which came out in 2012, was a strong return after years of absence. Fans really liked the record, which showed that Felder was still an interesting artist. Songs with Crosby, Stills, and Nash, like Fall from the Grace of Love, showed off his unique style, which combines soulful guitar tunes with strong but refined rock elements. He put out the ambitious album American Rock and Roll in 2019 with rock stars like Slash, Sammy Hagar, Mick Fleetwood, and others. The record was both a tribute to classic rock and proof of Felder's lasting impact on the music business. Even though Don Felder isn't with the Eagles anymore, his name will always be tied to the legend of Hotel California. He left the band, but the guitar riffs he wrote are still heard every time the song is played. Felder was an important part of the Eagles' success that can't be replaced, according to fans. He was a talented musician who got hurt in power battles within the band. In 2024, Don Felder continued to tour the United States, putting on top-notch shows with his famous hits. He performed at a lot of music festivals and other events, like concerts at big casinos and well-known outdoor sites. He also kept working with the media by doing interviews where he talked about his career and time with the Eagles. Felder didn't release a new record in 2024, but he did spend time writing new songs, which was a hint at future projects. Felder had a full tour plan as 2025 began, so he stayed busy. He said that he would be performing 45 times in the US and Canada, giving fans the chance to see his exciting live shows. He played hits by the Eagles as well as his best solo songs from Road to Forever and American Rock and Roll. But Felder had a health scare in February 2025 while performing on the rock legend's ship. He was thirsty and had to leave the stage to get emergency medical care. After getting fluids through and for, his health got better, and he was supposed to go back on tour as soon as he was fully recovered. Felder is still positive and dedicated to his music, even after this setback. He is still a well-liked veteran singer, and for his devoted fans, every show is a big deal. Not only are the hits Don Felder helped make with the Eagles his most important legacy, but he also had a huge effect on rock guitar. His guitar solo on Hotel California with Joe Walsh is still one of the best solos ever and has influenced many artists. Felder was a key part of making the Eagles from a country rock band into one of the best rock bands of all time, despite past disagreements. Today, Don Felder still writes music, performs, and lives his life the way he wants to. He is now at peace after years of trouble, but his songs will always be remembered by his fans. Once Felder is free of the problems he had in the past, he is only left with his biggest love, music. Feelings about Don Felder's amazing journey? Does his music remind you of anything? Tell us what you think in the space below. Click like and subscribe on our channel to get more inspiring stories about famous musicians.